everybody. It's the Van Show. Thank you. Now, we're so excited to have our guest today. Today, we're talking to Josh Rountree. Say hello, Josh.
Hello.
Well, we're so excited to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for giving me a chance to talk.
Absolutely. Now, we want to know a little bit about you. So, first of all, tell us where you're from.
I was actually born right here in Austin, Texas. I grew up actually out in West Texas, but I've been back in Austin since the mid '90s.
Oh, West Texas. Wow. Not a lot out there, huh?
Not a lot. I grew up in a town called Big Spring, and it's a cool little place, but it's a long way from here.
Was there actually a big spring there?
There is indeed a big spring. It's a pretty little spring kind of on the outside of town that was always kind of a stopping place for Comanches back in the day.
Ooh. And you just kind of wrote a Western, didn't you?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Westerns. Mine is a little bit bizarre. It's the Legend of Charlie Fish, and it's basically the creature from the Black Lagoon set during the 1900 Galveston hurricane.
But I want to know a little bit about how you got into becoming an author. So can you tell us where did your love of the written word start?
I mean, ever since I was a kid, I've always been a really big reader as long as I can remember. I started writing stories in elementary school on a regular basis. I mean, I would write stuff almost every day, even at that age. But it took me a long time to get to the point where I actually started submitting stories. I never really looked at it hey, it's something I'm going to make a career out of. I think, probably I wasn't even sure if I knew that's something that someone could do as a career. But I guess about 20 years ago, I decided, gosh, I should maybe see if some of this could find a home at a magazine or anthology. And so I started selling short fiction.
And were you successful on your first go? You submitted it for publication. They were like, heck yeah, let's do it.
And immediately earned millions of dollars. No, like most writers, I collected many rejections. I write in a lot of genres. I do dark fantasy, horror, science fiction, anything that's kind of weird. It was a process of trying to make each story better than the last one that you wrote, and then hoping that it finds a good home. And I collected hundreds of rejections, before I sold anything, and even to this day, I still get rejections all the time. Just trying to make the old story better than the new story better than the old one.
And so now, you wrote a lot of shorts, but now you've got a full length novel.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to us about the difference between writing the two? Like, I imagine it's kind of a different approach, writing short form versus long form.
Yeah, for sure. Short stories are kind of a very specific skill set. You're really trying to use just as much content on the page as is necessary to actually tell the story. So there's a lot of really cool little bits you'll write, and you'll ultimately have to take them out because they're not serving what you're trying to accomplish there. With a novel, you can really let it breathe a little bit more and leave some of those fun things in there. You still don't want to leave a whole lot of excess because that'll make it bloated, but you can kind of go down some of those little paths that you might not be able to on a short story. I kind of joke that I accidentally wrote a novel. I've written a bunch of novels before that haven't sold, and I kind of always come back to short stories because I love it so much. But this one kind of started to grow, and so I thought, well, I'll write a novella. So basically, like a real short novel, and it just kind of ended up growing until it, I guess I kind of fooled my brain into thinking I was still working short, and I ended up writing something long.
Let's talk a little bit about the book that you brought.
Okay.
A little bit more, I guess. So you said it was Creature from the Black Lagoon in the Wild West.
Yeah, basically it's the Legend of Charlie Fish. Charlie Fish is a gill man, so he's basically, think of the kind of something similar to Creature from the Black Lagoon. But he's not a villain in this story. Oh. He's really one of the protagonists. The story's really about a couple of orphans, Nellie, who's a 12-year-old witch, and her little brother, who's a 9-year-old gunslinger. And they end up throwing in their lot with Charlie Fish, and who has been captured to be put in a sideshow. They help free him, and everyone is on the run to Galveston. And so they're being chased by this couple of scoundrels who had captured Charlie Fish, and the entire thing comes together as the hurricane is striking Galveston. And the 1900 hurricane is still the worst natural disaster in U.S. history. It killed thousands of people. So more than anything, that becomes the biggest villain in the story.
Wow. And I imagine that there's, as a gill man, there's certain things a hurricane, like that maybe like wouldn't affect
he's
a
more
gill man.
equipped to deal with it than everyone else is, for sure. And so the whole thing is they're trying to sort of he can't communicate in our language, but our little 12-year-old witch Nellie can kind of sense what he's feeling and what he's thinking. And so they're trying to determine, is he trying to go home to the ocean, or what's he doing in the middle of all this? But yeah, certainly when the hurricane strikes, he's in a better position to help everybody out than anybody else is.
Wow. I love it. And so, kind of like the Iron Giant, like he's like everyone's afraid of him, and then like he kind of becomes the hero.
Yeah, my initial thought was, oh gosh, let's put this monster in the hurricane and he can rampage around while the storm's hitting. And then when I started, putting all the pieces together and seeing all these other characters, I thought, no, he's just kind of a cool guy, and he's going to be their friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, so would you say this is a novel for adults, or?
Yeah, it's
like
definitely
teens?
a novel for adults. Certainly, a younger audience can read it. It's not something that, I think there's anything that would offend a younger audience, but it is intended as an adult novel.
I like that I don't see a lot of adult novels where the protagonists are children like that.
Yeah, and actually, so some of the protagonists are adults. The book alternates back and forth between the perspective of Nellie, the 12-year-old, and Floyd, who is a 40-something guy who kind of helps them out and brings them to Galveston, and so you really get kind of the perspective from both sides of it.
Well, that's awesome. So before we go, I did want to ask you about something else that you like to write, which is rock and roll fantasy.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us a little bit about what that genre is? Because I might not. Maybe I don't know exactly what that means.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's necessarily a genre. It's just the way my writing kind of unfolds a lot of the time. I'm a huge music nerd. I listen to all kinds of music. I, have rooms full of records and CDs and everything. So music has always been, I think, something that I'm drawn to even more than books over my lifetime. And so it's such an influence on me that it always kind of seeps into my writing. I've written a bunch of stories, about rock stars, stories about, music working as a sort of magic and kind of a fantasy world and that type of thing. So really, I think it's more about that's always at the edges of my thinking, and so it often ends up in my work.
So, I mean, are you writing about actual, like, real people?
Sometimes it's it's made up stories, but one of my early really weird stories is called "Can't Buy Me Faded Love," and it's essentially an alternate history where John Lennon, before the Beatles become big, decides he's going to leave Liverpool and come to Texas to hunt down an aging Bob Wills and help him reinvigorate Western swing because it's his favorite type of music. So just it's kind of weird stuff like that. Yeah.
That is that. I mean, you said you were a music nerd, and now I'm hearing this so you're talking about like musicians who've never met meeting each other.
Yeah, I'm a deep dive music nerd.
I love that. I was thinking, when I hear like rock and roll fantasy, I'm like, like kid gets to go hang out with Kiss, like Detroit Rock City or something. But, like,
that would have been my rock and roll fantasy as a child. But
no, but like I like the idea of like putting together like two famous historical people who never actually met, and like seeing what happens when they meet in your story.
No, it's a lot of fun, and I have a few stories like that, but most of them it's just music kind of plays a real part in the lives of the characters because it's you kind of write about what you like.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm so excited for this now. This book is already out, is that right?
It's out. It's been out for a couple of weeks now.
Heck yeah! All right, well, go to your local bookstore, go to your local library, pick it up. And thank you so much for coming on the show. There's a close-up.
Right here. Don't forget, Legend of Charlie Fish. Goodbye.
Show.